Hey everyone! This week we're going to look at cognitive behavioral therapy, also known as CBT. I will slightly be touching on RABT and Meckenbaum's cognitive behavioral modification, but I'll mainly be describing Beck's cognitive behavioral therapy. All three have some overlap. What I will be giving you is what I hope to be the best conceptualization using elements of all three. Also, though this is an overview, it still requires a lot of explanation, which means that this video may be slightly longer than what I normally put out. With those things in mind, let's continue. Rational emotive behavioral therapy was developed by this guy named Ellis. He had this thing called the ABC framework. First you have an activating event, then you have the beliefs about that activating event, which causes consequences, emotional and behavioral. In this theory, the event doesn't cause you to feel sad, but your beliefs about the event. Ellis had this idea that disputing interventions, such as detecting irrational beliefs, debating their beliefs, and discriminating unhelpful beliefs from helpful ones, would create some kind of effect leading to a new set of feelings. Around that time you had another guy named Aaron Beck, who came up with a very similar theory. He noticed clients had a lot of spontaneous thoughts come up when they were depressed. Upon further questioning, he also saw that these clients had specific beliefs about themselves, their world, and their future. Therefore, Beck suggested that changing one's beliefs would help one feel better. The last theory is Donald Meckenbaum's cognitive behavioral modification. He noticed that people with depression have negative self-verbalizations. Instead of hearing a negative statement like "you suck" from somebody else after making a mistake, your inner monologue says "I suck" after making the mistake. Meckenbaum suggests that for change to happen, we need to start addressing self-talk. These are just a few of the cognitive behavioral therapies, but they're the main ones. CBT attempts to help clients identify measurable goals, understand the cognitive model, and to use the cognitive model to reach those goals. In other words, to essentially help the clients become their own therapist. A simplified way to look at the cognitive model is this: thoughts, behaviors or actions, and feelings all interact with one another. For example, I'm trying to learn something and I'm not understanding it. I may think I'm stupid, then feel sad or annoyed, and then discontinue learning it, which reinforces that thought of "I'm stupid," which makes me feel sad, and so on. It's not cyclical, but spherical and multi-directional. A feeling can influence a thought, or a thought can influence behavior, and so on. The CBT model suggests that we cannot change feelings directly, but since we can change our thoughts and behaviors directly, we can indirectly change our feelings. A CBT therapist may ask a client to change one of their behaviors that are creating an issue, but simply asking that of someone may not get the person to change their actions. Think of someone asking you to stand up in front of people and give a presentation. You can say okay, but that doesn't mean you'll do it, or feel comfortable doing it. This is where the cognitive aspect comes in. CBT's goal is to change irrational beliefs into something more adaptive. If you change your thoughts around your fear of presenting, it would make you more able to present without that fear there. The cognitive perspective shines brightest when the problems aren't to do with action. Perhaps you're feeling sad due to a breakup. This perspective will look at what that says about you. However, it will also uncover potential behaviors that result from those beliefs. For example, the breakup made you think that nobody cares about you, which led you to actions that distance you from people like your friends and family. Behavioral perspectives alone might not explore those issues. Also, it's important to note that CBT is not wishful or positive thinking. It works at using evidence to convince you that your thoughts are irrational or unhelpful. Like any other theory, CBT has its weaknesses. For one, the therapist has to be very knowledgeable. What I've given you so far is a very simplistic overview. There's much more to cover that a CBT therapist should know. CBT is deceptively simple looking. Some people think that they can apply it just after watching a video, but challenging beliefs is not an easy task. CBT does not deal with the emotional domain directly. A lot of people go to therapy wanting to deal with their emotions, which CBT thinks can't be done through expression alone. That being said, skilled CBT therapists are not cold. They follow Rogers' core conditions very rigidly. If CBT is practiced in a certain way, namely without the Rogerian core conditions, a client can hear it as judgmental. Think of how you'd feel if somebody told you your beliefs were irrational. This is partly why you'll hear a lot of therapists call them unhelpful or maladaptive beliefs. CBT focuses on doing, which can be a problem for those who are unmotivated to change. CBT is also very individualistic and can have issues when being used with people who are from cultures who do not value assertiveness, independence, and rationality. Likewise, unskilled therapists may accidentally challenge cultural beliefs. Although some clients are open to this, most will consider it disrespectful. CBT can be ineffective for young clients or those with learning disabilities. This is because they may not be able to accurately challenge their thoughts. It requires metacognition, which requires one to be at a certain level of cognitive development. Lastly, some clients can go through therapy and cognitively believe their thoughts and yet emotionally not. Beck's CBT calls this emotional reasoning, when a client says, "I understand that X is incorrect, but I still feel sad, depressed, etc." Now this is a very, very basic overview of what I see as the biggest problem, but I'll cover it more in depth in a future video. Now if you're interested, there's a study titled "Rational Emotional Dissociation When Head and Heart Don't Agree." I can't find the full article, but it's pretty easy to get the abstract, which gives you most of what you need. There's also a related philosophical concept called Elif by Tamar Genla. I have yet to find a method of treatment for this within the CBT framework. I imagine now you're feeling kind of down about the efficacy of CBT. But it really is effective for most clients. It has been one of the most well-researched and empirically validated theories. And I know I said unskilled therapists may challenge cultural beliefs, but the skilled CBT therapists can integrate CBT with the multicultural framework. CBT is collaborative. So in some theories, like in the psychodynamic ones, the therapist has to be the expert. I'm generalizing here, but the client knows nothing and the therapist interprets everything. You also have other theories where the client knows everything and the therapist assumes a role in which they know nothing, such as the Rogerian approaches. Both of those have weaknesses. In the ones where the therapist is like, "I know everything," the client feels powerless and can become dependent. And the one that assumes the client knows everything, the client can feel like therapy isn't really helping them. They go to a therapist hoping for the answers just to be told, "You're the expert of yourself," which can be demoralizing. CBT's collaborative nature is the closest thing to a resolution between the two. The therapist knows a lot about the theory but requires information that the client has in order to help the client. The therapist never assumes he's right. The therapist may have a hypothesis of a core belief, but the client must also agree to it and be willing to work on it. Another thing to recognize is that CBT is tailored to the individual's strengths and needs. Also, clients work to develop their own treatment plan. Lastly, CBT uses mood assessments throughout therapy to get clients' subjective experience, which is something you won't find in many other theories. I've covered a lot today, but I only gave you a general overview of cognitive behavioral therapy. Next week I plan to give you a more in-depth and technical look at CBT. In the comments, I'd like to hear your thoughts on CBT. Thanks for watching, thanks for being you, and have a nice day.